Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, and hope you all had a wonderful Father's Day. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope you got to either spend it with a dad, or if you're a dad, with your kids, or on your own, or however you like to celebrate the day, because we all like to celebrate in different ways. So I hope your celebration was the best it could be with the people you wanted to be with or yourself. Sometimes we just want to be alone, right? So today I want to talk about, and I'm going to kind of talk about dads this week. I want to talk about some lessons, life lessons I learned from my dad, and tell you a little bit about my dad. Tomorrow at 10:30, I'll be talking about why dads are important for all kids. So if you're a dad and you're watching this and you're thinking, you know what? I don't think I'm really needed. I'm really necessary here. Hi, Nick. Happy Father's Day to you. If you're thinking, am I really necessary? Let me just stop that thought right now and tell you, yes, you are. It has been scientifically proven that children that have dads present in their life succeed so much better, as long as that dad, excuse me, is not an abusive one. All right. Plus, remember, you are a role model for your child. So important too. So if you're joining me and you have never seen me before, hi, welcome. Thanks for being here. I'd love to see #new if you've never been with me before. My name is Celia Kibler, and I am a family empowerment coach. Let me shut that alarm off. Sorry about that. I'm a family empowerment coach and a counselor and author of Raising Happy Toddlers, How to Build Great Parenting Skills. Stop Yelling at Your Kids. I wrote this book as a manual. It is available in English and in Spanish, and my 3 children's books, all about me. Being Different is Fun, and I Am Grateful. All available at celiasbooks.com, which are direct links to Amazon. Okay. Let's get started, because I don't want to dive into me as much. I got a few hours of solo time and I cleaned house so good, and it was wonderful. I'm onto something big here. Yay, I'm excited you're onto something big. Okay, guys. So let's talk about this whole thing. Of being a dad and of what I learned from my dad. And I want to tell you a little bit about my dad first, if I can speak. I will try my best. If you don't know, I'm the founder of the Day of Calm Foundation and the International Day of Calm. That takes place on April 5th of 2020, which is on April 5th of every year, because on April 5th, 2020, the day my dad passed away. And I honored him this way. Why? Because he was the yeller in the family. So, I'm on this passion to help stop 10 million, I'm up to 10 million now, parents from yelling at their kids, thus going with the big Day of Calm Foundation and really making an effort to teach people in schools and universities and communities so that they can start being intentional about the way they raise their children. So we can get rid of the anger and the rage that's happening right now in society. School shootings, all of the violence, needless violence. Let's start turning it around. Dads are a big part of this, because dads can be a person that has either learned emotional regulation or hasn't, and has trouble with his own anger and responses to disappointment. So let me tell you about my dad. Great, wonderful man. Huge person that wanted to affect society as much as he could. The goodwill of mankind, maybe where I get my passion from. I hope it's where I get my passion from. It's certainly lessons I've learned from him. Hi, Justin, another great dad. Happy Father's Day to you. So also, and by the way, Justin's a great business coach. You need a business coach, see Justin. Yes, I already hit that. 100 million. I haven't hit 10 million. I don't think. I can't calculate. I can add 1 million. Anyway, so let me tell you a little bit about him and why I got my will to do goodwill for mankind from him, because everything he did was about making this world a better place. He was part of the original 4 people that installed airplane seatbelts into cars. So we have him to thank every time you wrap that belt around your waist. He created the fastest warship to date, still in the World Book of Records. He produced it for the U.S. Navy. It exists. I'm sorry to say the U.S. Navy does not use it. Created seaplanes that could carry water to put out fires on the planet in the United States. He worked on the Apollo missions. I mean, just every part of his life was help mankind, help mankind, help mankind. That's what he was all about. And I'm grateful that I also took that from him. Continue to help mankind. Now, here's the thing. That's just some of his accomplishments. That's not nearly the list. But here's the key. The thing is, up to his 92nd birthday, when he passed away, after accomplishing these endless accomplishments to heal and help mankind, he always thought he was mediocre. Always. He always thought anyone could have done what I did. And I used to say to him, you can come in. And I used to say to him, not anyone, Dad, you did it. You and your buddies decided to put seatbelts into cars. You decided to create ships that went faster than any other ship. You decided on seaplanes. You decided this. Not anyone. And this human is my sister. Gosh, Maddie, I should have worn my shirt. We could have been twins.
Who lost the ability to sit in the chair.
She's trying to learn how to sit.
To move that
way? I'll move the camera. Don't worry. Maddie, the world Maddie. And
I world.
So she is my sister. Let me point out my older sister, because that's necessary for you to know. Because
and wiser.
Why?
If I'm older.
So, also, okay. So this might become a laugh fest. We have no water.
Oh, we have no water. All right, I'll go get water.
She'll be right back. Stay tuned. She'll be right back. So see, now I've lost my track of mine. But this is the thing. He grew up with physical abuse, mental abuse. Luckily, he was a brilliant man. But what did that leave him? What's the life lesson you can take from physically and mentally abusing children? Is the fact that they come out hating themselves. And that's my dad. He thought he was mediocre. He didn't think he did anything special. One day for his birthday, I made a big banner of how many lives seatbelts alone had saved. I mean, he was like he just blew this stuff off because he thought he was so mediocre. And that's the sad truth. And that's why I am so passionate about stopping people from yelling at their kids. Justin says hi. Nick says hi.
Hi, Justin. Hi, Nick.
So Maddie is also trying to heal the world, because we are world healers. Because there's so much good in humanity.
Yes.
So much good. And in this
more
day
good
and
than
age,
bad.
Yes. And you're going to have to probably come a little closer, Maddie, because I can't stretch the mic anymore. Can you guys hear Maddie? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear her.
Can you hear me?
Luckily, we're like the loud family, so
right.
We don't have that volume problem. We're not going to talk like this. But you know what's really fun about
the two of us being on
microphones is you can talk like this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the other fun part
says
is we
hi.
sound the same.
We do. So you may not know who's talking, but it's us.
So me,
Celia, and her. Yeah, it's the one with the lips moving. That's who's talking. So anyway, well, I'm going to raise this up a little, and I'm going to try not to look at this. Oh, good. Nick can hear you. Justin can hear you.
Great.
All God's children can hear you.
Yay.
I don't think I've ever asked either of you to speak louder. I know, Justin. Really, we don't have that problem.
Right.
We don't have that problem.
No.
Hi, Izzy. So we thought we would come on and talk about all the wonderful gifts my father, our father, because we have the same father.
Right.
She got born first. And then he's like, we're not at perfection yet. So then they gave birth to my sister, still not there. Then this happened. This right here. This happened. Perfection. And then somehow my brother got born. They needed a boy. They needed a boy. So somehow Bennett got born. I'm not sure. But he was like the baby Jesus being born. Let me tell you, after 3 girls. It's like, oh boy. So anyway. Okay. So this could be a fun podcast. It's not even a podcast. It's a
whatever it is.
It's right. Whatever it is, live. So our point is, we have no point. Our point is
yes, we do. We have a point. Okay, so here's the point. The point is that your parents are human. They have failures. There are things you have to overcome. The point is that nothing is overcome overnight, in my opinion, without the Creator. So the only time you see miracles, the only time things happen overnight is really with the help of faith and the Creator. Other than that, not that we're not all connected to the Creator, but people have to work at it. They've got to be conscious of the things they're doing, and they've got to make the decision, I'm going to be better and I'm going to help others be better. And that's what my dad did, though he never really saw himself as better. But I don't know if Celia mentioned this or not, but he was raised with a lot of physical abuse.
Yeah, I did mention it.
And did not continue that. I will tell you.
Yes, he did not continue. He did yell, but he did not continue the physical abuse. And, you know, that alone, being able to conquer a cycle, a generational cycle
exactly
of dysfunction or abuse that continues, and being the person that says, I'm not going to do this. Yes. This ends with me.
And, we're humans. We don't live that long. What do we live? If we're lucky,
not that long.
If we're lucky, 100 years. So every generation has its own challenge to overcome. If
yes,
really evolve.
Overcoming, Maggie. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Maggie. So the story I love about my father, because my father had integrity. My
yes.
father lived by his word. My father did not go off just to please other people, and it got him in trouble. It often got him in trouble when he was head of Naval Ship Research and Development and was advocating for the continuation of this ship that they had built, this fastest ship in the world. He got transferred.
Canned.
Because, not canned, but
right,
he got removed from that job.
He got removed from the director.
Because the people in the Navy didn't want to ride around and captain smaller ships, even though they were faster and more efficient and better for everybody. They like to be captains of big ships. So he did this eventually. Had we actually pursued this, and now there are younger people pursuing his work again, but had we pursued it, we would have had a much more efficient, much more advanced Navy than we have now. But because we didn't listen to people with integrity, we listened to people with ego, this is where we're at.
Yes.
So here's my favorite story about my father and his integrity. So when I was young, I grew up during the Vietnam era, and I was a protester.
A
hippie and a protester. I was in the moratorium committee. I was marching around all over the place. And my dad, head of Naval Research and Development, Q clearance, all of that, we would argue. And we would even yell during our arguments, but he never stopped me from arguing. He never said, be quiet, get out of here. I'm kicking you out of the house. What are you, crazy? You're terrible for the country. So during these protests, one of the things we did when I was a senior in high school was we decided we would sit down during the pledge. So about 6 of us sat down during the pledge. and our homeroom teacher sent us to the principal's office. And the principal was ready to suspend us for 3 days. So he calls my mother. Now, my mother was always like, I'm going to call your father. Now, my father is in Washington, D.C. in like major meetings. So
Joint Chiefs of Staff,
Right.
President, those kind of meetings.
Those kind of meetings. So my mother calls him. So your oldest daughter this time is...
I never got in
She
trouble.
did not.
Okay. I never got in trouble.
Never.
I was a model student. I
Right.
learned from their mistakes.
Except when she got into high school following me and my other sister, all the teachers were like, oh no, it's another one.
Yeah, but then they realized I was not like them.
So anyway, on with the story. So my mother does call my father. They're threatening to suspend Maddie this time. Madeline, actually, is what they called me when I was in trouble. They're threatening to suspend her from school for sitting down during the pledge. My father goes, what's the number? And he calls the principal. Now, the 6 of us are all sitting in the principal's office at this time, the 6 of us that did this. And he's on the phone with the principal, and you can hear him. He's not yelling, but he does have a loud voice. Like
Also loud.
Yes.
We're the loud family.
So he says to the principal, he goes, first, I canceled a very important meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which was always his big line. Nobody really knows if he actually did that part, but canceled a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff to talk to you. So let me tell you something. First, it is not illegal to sit down for the pledge to the flag in the United States of America. There is no law against that. Number 2, what do you think we are fighting for in Vietnam? Her right to sit down for the pledge to the flag if that's what she chooses to do. That's why the United States goes to war, to defend everybody's personal freedom. So I really don't think you should be suspending these kids. Click. And none of us got suspended. We all got sent back to class. But that's what I mean. That's what I mean about integrity. He did not agree with that. We talked about it when I got home.
Yeah.
He did not agree with it. He did not think it was a good form of protest. We reviewed the fact that, only in this country do we have that kind of freedom, which hopefully remains. And that is the difference between what he did and what was going on then and what is going on now. There was no idea in him that I shouldn't be able to speak my mind, even if he totally disagreed.
Right.
He totally disagreed.
He stood up for the fact that you have a right
to
stand up and speak.
That is the fundamental right that leads to liberty.
Every American and every human.
Yep. And though none of you have ever seen my high school picture, which maybe we'll post after this.
She had a beaded.
So here's my second favorite story, and I'll leave out his expletives. So we had as a senior
family
class,
audience.
I said I'll leave
I'm
out
just
the
kidding.
expletives.
I'm just kidding.
So we had voted as a senior class in high school not to do the traditional go to the photography studio, get the drape, look on, we voted not to do that. Everybody could bring in any picture they wanted to of themselves, and that was going to be our yearbook picture. I graduated in 1971. So that was going to be
I spelled old. Oh. Go ahead.
So that was going to be our yearbook picture. That's what we had voted on. But our last president took it upon himself to veto what the majority wanted. So he decided that no.
And this was a student.
Yeah, this was a student. So he decided, nope, not doing that. No, that will look terrible. We can't have a million different pictures. He got the faculty to back him. And we were informed that if we wanted a picture in the yearbook, all of us would have to go and get our pictures taken.
With formal garb. Because back then you had like a drape for girls and a little fake tuxedo for boys.
Right. So we go to get our pictures taken. And I went to get my picture taken with a beaded headband on and my peace symbol necklace. That's how I got my picture taken. So The pictures come out. The class president looks at the pictures and he's like appalled. He is appalled. And he calls my father. Can you imagine the nerve of this guy? He knows exactly who my father is. He's met my father. And I should describe my father that my father kind of looked like, especially when he was younger, every mafia don you have ever seen in a movie, even though he was Jewish, and he had that slight Brooklyn accent, and he grew up as a street kid, so like he was pretty intimidating when he wanted to be. So
we'll show you the picture.
So this guy decides he's going to call my father. He calls my father, and these are the words he says to him: "You have to get your daughter to retake her picture. She cannot go into the yearbook with that headband on." To which my father replied, "Who the blank do you think you are talking to? She can go into the yearbook like in any way she wanted to. I already paid for these pictures. I'm not paying for them again. Never call me again." Click. Right? And my picture went into the yearbook with my headband on.
Headband and all.
And that's what I mean about integrity.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing now. We are missing, you look at somebody like the class president who felt like he could tell he had no respect for who my father was and could tell him what he should do.
And that's another element is respect.
Yeah. And just as an aside, my senior class president, when we had our 40th class reunion, embezzled all our money for the reunion, embezzled from his company, and ended up in jail.
Clearly not too much integrity.
This is what happens right when you don't have integrity.
Right, exactly.
So,
and and then there's so many gifts. Yes, my father was a yeller. Yes, he yelled. Yes, often we weren't sure what to say, how to say it, if it would set him off. But then there are so many gifts that man had. And that's one of the things we have to remember when meeting people, getting to know people, that we all have gifts. Raising our children, recognize the gifts your kids have. They have so many little gifts and so much wisdom. And when we grew up with music all the time. And there was music in our house. We were singing. There was opera. There was musicals, constant music in our house, a lot of laughter, a lot of sarcasm, which we continue to this day and pass on to our grandchildren. A lot of fun. We always had fun.
Yeah.
Except for when we weren't having fun, we'd bring yelled at. That wasn't fun. But the other parts were fun. We still had great memories.
But it's also, it's an amazing thing to be raised by first a genius.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
A scientist and a mother who was an artist. That's quite the combination. So there was quite the balancing of
culture,
input and culture, yes, and all of that. And
hi, Keith. And another great dad. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day,
Keith is the dad of dads. He's the founder of Dads for Life. If you need to find out about being a dad, Keith's your man.
So true. And my father had a wisdom, like he could say things very succinctly. Like I was having a hard time making a decision. This is a few years later. Where was I going to stay in New York? Was I going to pursue my acting career? Was I going to go to LA? What was I going to do? And I'm talking to him on the phone, and he said to me, "Whatever you do, never make a decision out of desperation. Never." And I will never forget those words. And if I feel myself getting anxious about something, like some decision, if I feel myself worrying about something, I will sit there and I'll go, okay, remember, if you're feeling desperate, we're not even going to deal with this now. We're going to go off. We're going to do something else. We're going to think about it. And I'll come back when I'm feeling more calm. And then the other brilliant thing he said that really needs to be pointed out, I think, in public schools today is that the same brain that allows your mother to create a painting is the brain that allows me to create an airplane. So,
Oh, so
This-
good stuff. The
Yeah.
man had good stuff.
and I mean, we're talking years and years ago, before we had the biology of belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton and all the brain research. We know, well, yeah, what you believe is true. We are human beings designed to create. We will create in one way or another. We will either create beauty or we'll create destruction.
Right,
We'll create
right.
something.
And it's all a choice.
Right.
Hi,
Exactly.
Abby. It's all a choice. And that's what we also have to realize
Mhm.
is that what we have as the biggest gift is the gift of choice.
That's right.
And you can either choose to create, like Maddie said, like Dad said, you can create, you can choose to, help others. You can choose to destroy others. You can choose to just center on yourself and think that you're the center of the universe,
Right.
which, clue, you're not. And it is all choice.
Yep, exactly. And also, we saw sides of my father that other people didn't see,
Yes.
and that's, aside from being a great, like at his retirement, the young men that worked under him.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, the things they had to say about him were phenomenal. I mean, they loved him. They could not say enough about him. It was very, very moving. And so in every situation with every human being, there are different aspects of themselves that come out. So it was great to be at that retirement party and hear admirals talk about him, and, the Secretary of the Navy and the Undersecretary of the Navy and, all these big people, but talk about him with such admiration.
Yes,
but the
he did,
most impressive ones were these young men that had been working under him, and talking about how much they would miss him and how grateful they were for his mentoring, which also was another lesson to me that especially now that I am older is very meaningful, is that your legacy as an elder is your mentoring. So seeing that example, that is precisely what we have. We have the stories of our lives to tell. We have the lessons that we have learned, and it's how we share them with young people so that they can hear us.
Right.
And though, I was a little bit surprised to hear how much they loved him, because I would have thought he's at the office and if something didn't go right, he would yell. Never happened in a professional situation, because, as a parent, your ego, your emotion is all tied into your kids.
Right.
Too.
It's different. It's different. Justin said that's such a legacy. I think about that often. How do I want my kids and my friends and the people who knew me to talk about me after I'm gone?
Yeah.
And it's so important to think about.
It is.
Because it is, everyone on here knows that almost 3 years ago, I had a heart attack. And I often reflect, of course, I became a survivor. So it was a good day. I often reflect what would have happened if I had left the earth on that day. I came so close to it. What would have happened? How would my children have thought about me as a mom had I been gone? And I have to say, for the most part, I think they would have been proud of me and happy and glad I was their mom. And it's an important thing to think about. It's when I teach parents, be the person you want your children to be.
Right.
They're going to model you however you are. Whatever you do, good or not so good, you give them permission to do. If you don't want them to do something, don't do it. Take responsibility for you and the way you are intentionally showing up for the rest of the world. We are all role models for children.
Yep.
All of us.
So
we just created 3 commercials about dads teaching values and leaving a legacy. Yes, Keith, I can't wait. Keith is creating all these commercials that are surrounded by dads and what's going on. And Keith, you know what? You need to come back on my podcast so we can talk more about what you're doing. Because he's doing so many great things.
So the other thing I wanted to say for my father, and this is very much in terms of parenting, is he about 3 days before he died, we had a conversation. I was talking to him on the phone, and he said to me, now my father never talked about his father. Never, ever, ever. When my grandfather was about to die, I mean, he knew that he had very little time left. He asked to come see me. And he didn't even know you weren't born yet, I don't think. But Linda was, our middle sister was. I don't think he even
It's
knew.
a sad day I wasn't on this planet.
Again, humility. So Linda was, but he didn't even
their childhood had not yet been enlightened.
Nor as entertaining. But that's a story for another day. So anyway, so he didn't even know Linda had been born. He knew I had, and he wanted to see me, and I was about 5 at the time. And my father, one of my aunts and my grandmother convinced my father to let him come to the house. So what my father stood in the door. I
do remember this. I think I remember.
Could you possibly remember that? I was 5. I know I was 5.
Well, I know there was another father that came. He had 2.
Yeah.
And maybe I know the story. I must know the story. Go ahead. Never mind. Sorry
but
for
anyway,
interrupting.
So
I'm having flashbacks.
So my father would allow him to come onto the front porch. He would not let him in the house. My father stood in the door, as tall as the door at that time, with this look on his face of, I would say it was pretty close to hatred. It was
disdain.
Did not say a word to his father. Nothing. Didn't say anything to his father. So he lets him come on the porch. He lets me come outside because my grandfather had bought me one of these little wooden pull toys. It was a beagle that had the basset hound pull toy that the legs rolled around when you pulled it. And he let me give me the toy. He let him give me the toy. He said goodbye to my father. My father didn't say a word back to him. He said, he bent over, he said goodbye to me, gave me a hug. And we had these tall bushes in the front of our house. And I can remember him turning around the bushes. And that was the last that I saw of him ever, first and last time. And then my father opened the door and I went back in the house, but I had to leave the little doggy outside. I could only play with him outside. Isn't that weird? But I distinctly remember that day. So we'll go back to 3 days before my dad dies. And we're on the phone and he says to me, I was just thinking about this time when my father and I were walking down the road in Coney Island. Might have been the boardwalk, but we're walking down the road in Coney Island and he's looking out at all the ships out there on the water. And he's telling me the name of every single ship and what they were for and what they did. And he knew all about them. I remember that. He was holding my hand. I must have been 7 or 8. And that was a great day. Those are the only words I ever heard my father say about his father. I knew a little bit about what happened from my aunts. Not positive. I didn't hear anything positive. I didn't
know that was positive.
That was positive, but I didn't hear. There was nothing positive or negative. Whatever I knew about my grandfather, I knew from my aunts.
Right.
So
same here. Hi, Dr. Seema.
Hi. So that was 3 days before he died. Now, I'm not going to get into all the things that I believe about what happens when you're getting ready to leave the planet, but it's very interesting that some of his last thoughts turned to that.
Was a good thought of his father.
And I also believe that when we can look at the good in anything, we can forgive. That's the lesson I took away from that story. We can forgive. And part of the problem we're having in the culture right now is that some of us, not all of us, but some of us, mainly in the media, focus only on what is wrong. We're focused on the past. We're focused on what is wrong. I mean, Celia and I,
And that happens in
yeah,
families too.
exactly. And
Parents
Celia
are
and
so busy focusing on what their kids do wrong,
right.
They don't see what they do
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. And Celia and I and my brother and my sister, we could sit here all day long and go over and rehash all the things that Dad did wrong, all the things that Mom did wrong, which weren't many. But you know, you could dwell in that forever, and a lot of people do. And when they do end up dwelling in that, that's why they can't move on, and they become the people that we see marching around today that want to drag everybody back to the past and focus only on all the bad stuff,
On the negative stuff.
and that's not going to get
And it makes
anywhere.
a negative world. It is not going to move you forward. It is not going to allow you to forgive, because after all, forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person.
Yep.
You know, it's not about them. It's about what you can do for you. And to get people to stop all the blaming and the shaming and the criticizing and the, you know, judgment, all of that is not connecting us, is not creating a more compassionate world, is not helping the anger and rage that rules this society, and here in the United States and in other places.
Yep.
And it's in need. We need to start seeing the good.
And when I look at my
Thank
dad,
you, Keith.
when I look at my dad and I look at the end of his life when he was so upset about the direction that the country was taking, a lot of that anger comes from the idea that you are no longer effective. You no longer have an influence in the world. And especially when you've been somebody that was so influential at one time in your life. And also it throws you off balance, because this is a world you don't recognize and you don't understand. So
he used to say, "This is not my world anymore."
Yeah.
This is not my world.
So it's very, very important as children, grown children, to do this kind of review and to start with, let's focus on all the good stuff that we were given. Let's look at how our integrity, our sense of humor, what are all the good gifts? And if you really had a father,
and we have a lot of good gifts. If you
really had a father that was very challenging, like some of the women talk about in the women's circles that I do, that what we start to do is look at, well, what are the lessons in those challenges?
Right. There's always lessons. There's lessons in everything.
Exactly.
There are lessons in everything. And speak of lessons,
yes,
we used to want to write a book about all the sayings my father had, because he had some great sayings. So to add a little humor into this, because we've been running, see, we're like already on 40 minutes, and I know you guys probably have something to do with your lives.
Yes.
We're going to do some of the one-liners and Nat-isms. Right. My father's name was Nat, not Nathaniel, not Nathan, simply Nat. Do it. Yes, we're going to do it, Keith. We're going to do it. So one of the great ones, when referring to his eldest hippie daughter, was, in certain situation, we don't have to go into the situation, but one of his great things was, when you walk like a duck and you act like a duck and you quack like a duck and you hang around with other ducks, people will tend to think you're a duck. Very applicable in all kinds of situations. That was like one of his great. Another one, science and skill wins out over ignorance and superstition. Right. That was a repetitive one constantly in our lives. Right. Yep. There's some other ones, why can't I think of any right now? So there were some other great ones. What were they?
I don't know.
Come on.
To write them
Jeez. No, we have lots of them. Hold on. Don't talk much. Have you know what?
Coffee. We'll post them. We will post them when we think of them.
Oh my
because
gosh,
somewhere
there's so many good ones.
And then we'll call our other sister and our brother. But he was very big on the platitude. And platitudes are good. They're platitudes. It's like what they say about cliches. They're platitudes and cliches because they're true.
Yeah.
So that was the great part. But in all cases and in every case, he was very, very loving. He very much got us
unconditionally.
unconditionally. Yeah. And he was very much, he's the one that got us interested in nature. He used to take us out on nature walks before they destroyed the woods behind our house. We used to go out on nature
I used to get ticks. Nobody else got ticks. I would come back from a nature walk and I'd have like 6 ticks and no one else would have ticks.
That's right.
I had a tick right here, sticking out my head.
It's because she was the sweet
I don't know how
one.
that was.
I liked her
yes,
blood
I was the
better.
sweet one.
Right.
That's fact.
So really, I mean, we learned all about nature long before we had to study it. When in high school we were much younger, you know, than
was
that.
that a sentence? Long before we had to study it, when in high school we were much younger. Was that even?
I don't know. I think it was a run-on.
I think that was a broken sentence.
We learned about nature when we were very young, experientially. Like all children should learn about it very young.
Yes,
but
and should
actually
connect with nature, and you don't even have to name
Right.
it. You just have to go out there. You know, we do a lot of naming these in this society, and
echo studies.
they name things. They're always naming. Stop with the naming. Stop. That may be politically incorrect.
Yes.
Saying this, but stop with the naming.
You don't-
Start the doing.
Right.
Start doing.
Right.
Stop naming.
Yep.
Walk outside in your bare feet. You don't have to call it something.
And unfortunately,
Take a vacation before your child's born. You don't have to call it something.
Right.
You can call it, I'm taking a vacation before the baby's born. Stop with, there's a lot of effort put into naming.
Too much.
Making up new words, taking out old words.
Yes.
Spend your time doing.
First step.
Taking action, being an example, being a role model, being the best human you can be, so that you are sharing with others and helping them be the best they can be. When you shine, you give others permission to shine.
Yeah. And that's what Justin and I were talking the other day, that unfortunately, you know, you parents today have a much tougher job, because school is all about reading, writing, arithmetic, memorization, things that are very, very difficult, and also very much about indoctrination and not about actually teaching kids things and survival skills. And you remember, Justin, you said to me that today, you have to be the kind of parent that exposes your kids to different things, and how we feel sorry for these kids whose parents just don't have the time, the energy, the money to take their children for nature walks, or or they're not even aware that this is something they need to be doing with their kids, because their parents never did it with them.
Right.
So now, in order to raise a fully rounded child, a whole lot of it is on the parents, and that was not quite as intense as it is today. It was not quite that way when I was growing up at all. I mean, school,
well, we had a lot
lots
of different things. We didn't have all the electronic interference.
True. Well, we also didn't have testing. We didn't have standardized testing.
We didn't have standardized testing. It was a blessing.
Mhm.
And although I did have some as I got older, because
I didn't.
She's a lot older than me. 4.5. Anyway.
And I guess really well, so I test really well.
She does. I test really badly. So anyway, guys, you know, it's 11. We've been keeping you up for 45, keeping you up. Well, Dr. Seema, actually, we might have been keeping you up.
Right.
Because, you know, India's long hours from our hours. Anyway, and happy birthday to you. She just celebrated
happy birthday.
So, guys, see the good. See the good that your kids do. They do so much more good than not so good. See the good in the world. They're so much more good than what the news would like you to believe.
Yep.
Turn off the news. Start making your own news. Celebrate your wins, celebrate your spirit, celebrate your happiness. Have fun with your kids. You know, this life is short. None of us are getting out of here alive.
Right.
So, like, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, don't take life so seriously. I'm smacking you. Don't take life so seriously. It's, you know, take it serious. Be intentional.
Lighten up.
But lighten up. Because you know what? laughter, really, there's my next. And here's okay.
This is like our beautiful pointer. So I'm using.
Okay, breathe.
Okay.
They're not even paying for this. All right, stop laughing. Time for us to go.
We'll see.
Or we'll just sit here for 10 minutes laughing. All right, love you guys.
Love you.
Here's today's filled with peace, love, tons of laughter.
Right.
Really, it's the
And
best medicine.
Sign out. Sign out.